Get your bikes ready because Portland Sunday Parkways is coming to East Portland. Presented by Kaiser Permanente from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. on Sunday, June 28th, you can explore parks and neighborhoods filled with vendors, community booths, family-friendly activities, all free and while riding your bike. The 4-mile route will feature several parks, including, for the very first time, Verdell, Burdine, Rutherford Park. For more details and route info, go to portland.gov/Sunday-Parkways. That's portland.gov/Sunday-Parkways. Here's to Oregon businesses, to making things here and serving our neighbors. SAFE, that's SAIF, is on your side whether you're a plumber in Portland, a builder in Bend, or a roaster in Roseburg. They're a nonprofit that for over 100 years have provided safety resources to avoid injuries at your job. Their workers' comp that really works. Learn more at SAIF.com. That's SAIF.com. Today on CityCast Portland, we're talking about improved wait times for emergency calls, what happened at the big Moda Center Renovation Business Summit, and why it's getting more expensive to live in Portland. Joining me today are Willamette Week City Hall reporter Sophie Peel and the Oregonian City Hall reporter Shane Dixon Kavanaugh. What an honor, you guys.
Hi, Claudia.
Hi, Sophie.
Hello.
What great good fortune the three of us have to be able to spend some time together again. It's really nice to see both of you. And Claudia, thanks for having us on the show.
Of course. The fact that I get to have two of Portland's most feared City Hall reporters at the same time, I feel like we're winning.
Feared like junkyard dog feared?
Yeah, pretty much. Just like have they had their shots feared? How are you both feeling this morning? I'm just curious. Are you fresh as a daisy?
I wouldn't say I'm fresh as a daisy, but I'm not like completely wilted. I'm in a fine space.
Fine space. What about you, Shane?
I would say in the interest of radical transparency, I'm just going to tell you both that I'm having a real dog shit morning.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's okay.
That's life, isn't it, Shane?
But then it gets better.
It's already getting better. Here we are, ready to rip. So let's do it.
Listeners, we were all up pretty late last night. We were at a memorial. We were lifting a pint for a lost comrade. And now we're here this morning. I know Shane is maybe 6 hours from having eaten some Jack in the Box tacos. We're just going to put it there. And that's all you need to know. So I'm so happy that you guys made it. Thank you. I appreciate it. Before we jump into things, I usually ask an opening question, as you both know, so listeners can get to know our guests a little better. And today's is inspired by the latest city auditor's report looking into 911 operator response times by our Bureau of Emergency Communications, or BOEC. The audit found that 911 operators in Portland are answering phones 4 times faster today compared to 2022, when the average wait time for someone calling in was well over a minute, clocking in at around 77 seconds. That was the average, because I'm sure a lot of us remember longer wait times. A big reason for those post-pandemic wait times were due to understaffing. BOEC had about 33 vacant positions back then. But today, Portland's 911 operator response time is around 18 seconds, which is a big improvement. Unfortunately, though, we're still coming in slower than the national standard, which requires 90% of all 911 calls to be answered in 15 seconds. But overall, the audit reported that there was a huge improvement, mostly credited to recruitment, hiring, training, retention, all the good stuff. At the time of the audit report, they noted there were only 6 vacancies in the office. But the main recommendation by the city auditor's office was for the Bureau to, I guess, be more clear about the job requirements earlier on, because it seems that they would get like a really high number of people being like, yeah, I want to be an operator. That sounds awesome. And then like halfway through their training, they were like, oh no, JK, this is awful. Bye. And so they would spend all this time with, however many people, training them, paying them to get trained, and then they would just bail. Nearly half of the trainees leave before their training is finished. That is not a good percentage, that's a total waste of time. So Portland's Bureau of Emergency Communications leadership agreed with the suggestions and pledged to address most of those concerns within a year, including being, I guess, better about like job expectations.
Be like, this job sucks. Just so you know.
I don't know what they were like not understanding. Maybe something's getting lost in the communication. Unfortunately, due to city budget reductions in public safety per the latest budget vote, the response time for assistance on the scene is expected to go up. So no matter how much time we shave off in our 911 operator response times, we might still see first responders lagging to get to the scene because of understaffing. That's if city council doesn't get it together, of course. I'm still going to see this as a general win for the city because 911 response times were a huge concern a handful of years ago. I know we dedicated many shows to it. And this audit report basically proved there was massive improvement, leading me to my opening question. As two of the most jaded City Hall reporters in Portland, which no one faults you for being, y'all. That's part of your job. And I, too, have seen the city council meetings devolve into high school level mean girl fights. That's my opinion, not yours. Just letting everybody know, listening. From your unique perch, what else have you seen the city improve on in the last few years? And you can't say 911 operator response times.
Well, I actually wasn't approaching this question from a City Hall reporter point of view.
Oh, cool.
I was just approaching it from a layman point of view.
I like it.
I think like the public trash cans in Portland, I remember a few years ago, and maybe this was just like a holdover from COVID, but they were like disgusting. There were flies. I remember seeing some rats, like they were always overflowing. And I've just been thinking about my public trash can experience like in the past year. And it's great. Like I never have to perch it on top of the trash can. I never have to like work as like a trash compressor and then put my thing in there. Like it's just, when it's a pain in the ass, it's a real pain in the ass. But like when you have the luxury of just being able to throw it in a non-stuffed trash can, it's just, you don't
Can't stop talking about it. She loves it. Yeah.
It's great.
Improvement.
I could go on.
I would say it's going to be hard for me to top public trash can experience, at least in where Sophie Peel lives. I will also make the distinction that the city has its own public trash can program, and that's different than the trash cans that you're going to find by TriMet stops, for instance. Those are different trash cans. TriMet's responsible for those, and I can tell you, those are still overflowing all the damn time.
Thank you, Shane. Thank you for that.
But in addition to improved trash can experience, I would say things that have improved in the city in the last few years. Come downtown. I'm here right now. Downtown continues to make incremental progress and improvement just in terms of the overall sort of feel and vibrancy, the number of people who are here, both on the weekdays and then because there are so many cool and interesting things happening on nights and weekends in the central city. There's just a lot more people down here. So I always want to plug that when I can. But I think the other big thing, and it's so interesting that I don't think this gets enough sort of recognition or acknowledgement, but seeing the, plummeting number of reported shootings and homicides and auto thefts, the turnaround on those particular crimes has been astonishing, quite frankly, especially given how acute the problem was just a couple of years ago. So I think it's worth highlighting that as well as like a major public safety win, even if cops showing up to reported crimes and even high priority calls is still taking way too long. I think we can have some comfort in knowing that at least some of the most seemingly intractable crimes in the last few years appear to be making a real pronounced reverse.
Yeah.
Man, my answer was super shallow.
Don't forget the trash cans, Shane.
No, it's not just trash cans. I'm saying it's trash can experience.
Yeah,
right, it's different.
And so to add to Sophie's improvement feedback here that she's giving the city, I really appreciate that trash cans now also have a place for like recyclables. I think that's pretty cool. Shane, I also agree the lack of murders is awesome, though. But those trash cans. Well, thank you both for your answers.
I want to quiz you both. Do either of you have any idea, best guess, how much do one of those new city trash cans cost?
You know the
this?
answer?
I do know the answer to this.
Okay.
That's why I'm asking you. Yeah.
Okay, does this include like installation or just the raw material?
The raw materials, the installation, and keep in mind all these trash cans have those really cool murals and designs that were commissioned by like local artists.
Yeah.
So it's all the things.
Okay, knowing just how like somehow things that should cost $20 go into the city and get churned out and suddenly they're $3,000, I'm going to say $2,700.
I'm just going to give you my gut of what I think it should cost. $600. I know it's not that. I know you both looked at me like I was an idiot, and I know.
Well,
but I'm giving you my heart.
But Claudia, if this was The Price is Right, Sophie went way over and you went way under. It's about $1,500.
Okay.
Oh,
so
we're both wrong. $1,500. I mean, not
honestly
that bad. That's not actually
it's
that
a lot.
bad. It's a lot though for one trash can.
$1,500 for a trash can.
I know it's
That's
true,
true.
Shane. It's true.
Anyway, thanks for indulging me. Thank you. Fun fact.
That was fun. I like that. I love being quizzed.
Love that fun fact. Real quick, though, before we break, I have a Pedalpalooza update. We were sponsoring a bike ride, the Sidewalk Joy bike ride, and we were planning on co-presenting it this weekend. It's been postponed because of rain, so mark your calendars. The new date for the ride is August 9th. This is kind of funny. Whenever we decide we're going to do something, just terrible weather. Either it's like 1,000 degrees or it's, raining. But you know what? We're going to get it together one day. Just one day, God will smile upon CityCast Portland's plans, and it's going to be great.
That's it? That's all you got?
That's all I had. All right. Let's take a quick break here.
Snooze fest. Just kidding. I'm just being a troll.
Let's take a quick break here, and when we come back, Sophie attended the Moda Center Renovation Business Summit meeting that featured Trailblazers owner Tom Dundon as a speaker, so we're going to hear all about it. Grand Central Bakery wants to wish you all a happy Pride and is once again showing up, celebrating, and giving back directly to the community. All this week, June 22nd through the 28th, Grand Central is donating $1 from every bag sold of their Rainbow Pride and Trans Pride shortbread cookies to the Q Center. The Q Center is an amazing organization that provides safe space and community building for the LGBTQ2SIA+ communities and allies here in the Pacific Northwest and have been doing so for over 2 decades. And on Sunday, June 28th, Grand Central Bakery is donating 10% of the entire day's cafe sales. So every single purchase counts. Every loaf of Como bread, every jammer, every turkey chutney sandwich, every dirty gold latte, you can help out by purchasing online at grandcentralbakery.com or in person at any of their 8 neighborhood locations. Okay, Sophie, I know this meeting was a doozy because it was one of the first things you brought up when I saw you last night and we were at a memorial. But you were that rattled by it. First off, can you explain the purpose of the meeting and who was in attendance so people understand why this meeting was important?
Yeah, so it was an annual business summit hosted by the Portland Metro Chamber, which is the city's business lobby. And the kind of featured guest, I think really the whole point actually of the event was that Tom Dundon, who is the new Trailblazers billionaire owner, was attending. And it wasn't really clear exactly what he was going to say ahead of time, but they just said he's making an appearance, he's going to make some remarks. And his ownership team is in sort of high stakes negotiations with both the Portland City Council and the Multnomah County Board of Commissioners over funding a large scale renovation of the Moda Center. So the renovation is expected to cost $600 million. The state has already pledged $365 million towards it, and then Mayor Keith Wilson has pledged $120 million, and Multnomah County Chair Jessica Vega Peterson has pledged $88 million. However, both the county and the city have yet to actually approve this funding. And I actually thought the county funding was a little bit more, not necessarily baked, but I actually thought it was going to have a little bit less resistance. But the commission really is talking about it, it seems like, based on Shane's reporting, actually. But I think probably the bigger holdup is the Portland City Council. That is really up in the air as to whether the City Council is going to approve this funding or not. Some of them are very, very irked by the idea that this funding would primarily come from the Portland Clean Energy Fund, which is the city's climate tax. And the Blazers / Dundon and then the City Council are in this very weird, proxy fight. Some city councilors are going to social media and kind of making these kind of salty, sarcastic videos. And then Dundon's just kind of doing nothing. And it's just weird. It's a really weird dynamic right now. And it felt like this entire Portland Metro Chamber event yesterday was pretty much to try to really drive it in that the city needs to approve this funding. So they had, like the biggest heavy hitters in the state there. They had Governor Tina Kotek, they had Mayor Keith Wilson, they had County Chair Jessica Vega Peterson, they had a bunch of state senators and legislators. Some of them spoke and they all were pretty much like, please fund this. This is so important for our economy. What everyone really wanted to see was Tom Dundon, because he has been very tight-lipped about things. He doesn't really talk to the press. He kind of keeps his cards close to his chest. He's kind of this like elusive, billionaire from Texas who has kind of built his fortune off of somewhat predatory auto lending. I mean, he's like, Portlanders don't like billionaires, right? Like we just don't. It's deep in our bones. So I can only describe this like 10-minute interview between the Portland Metro Chamber President Andrew Hone and Tom Dundon as like deeply, deeply awkward and stilted. I think the point was really to try to sort of humanize Tom Dundon, familiarize like the crowd with him. And, this was a crowd that is, for the most part, is, I think, very supportive of the Moda Center, right? Like, this was not a crowd that was like, boo. But still, like, I think they were just trying to, like, get him to be a little bit more, like, comfortable and maybe a little charismatic. And I don't know what exactly, but all I know is that the intended effect was not achieved. So I think Andrew Hone started off by asking him a few rapid fire questions, which I gotta say, like, either a rapid fire question segment can go, like, really great or it can go really poorly. Like, there's just no in between. And this went really poorly. Like, he asked Tom Dundon, tell us about your childhood. And Tom Dundon was like, well, I grew up in New Jersey. Okay. Next question. What did you want to be when you were little? Well, I maybe wanted to be a pilot, but I actually don't remember. Okay. Next question. What do you do for fun? I love my wife and my 5 children. He did not seem like he wanted to be there. It felt like he was like the cool jock from high school who got dragged into like a group project and really didn't want to be there. And everyone around him was like kind of falling all over him. I mean, every elected official that spoke was, so like complimentary of this renovation and that Dundon wanted to keep the Blazers here. And I mean, it was an odd event. Like, I don't really know how else to say it. I don't think this event will necessarily change what happens at the city council level. At the same time, the city council was having a work session about this deal, about the Moda Center funding.
And Shane, you were there. You were at that meeting.
I was at that meeting and also getting live updates from the Portland Metro Chamber event from my colleagues, Matthew Kish and Bill Oram, that were, rolling in real time. And my jaw just kept lowering more and more and more as I was starting to get a sense of what Sophie has just sort of, articulated here. I mean, I think the other, key piece is that it was hyped that the Blazers' new owner was going to be, the featured speaker at this event. And woof, he spoke for barely 10 minutes. Most of his answers were practically monosyllabic, but he did make one thing abundantly clear, which was that he has no interest whatsoever in putting money toward the Moda Center's expected $600 million makeover. And he's making the point that simply keeping the NBA franchise in Portland is enough of a financial sacrifice as far as he is concerned.
Wow.
Why does this matter? Because while he has sort of made this point multiple times in the last few months, he made it abundantly clear before this hoity-toity audience, as Sophie has pointed out, a group full of heavy hitters. And he's making that point at the exact same time that I'm listening to a group of Portland City councilors saying, like, on the top of their list of, things that they want to see in any potential final deal with the Portland Trailblazers is that they need to put money into this Moda Center renovation.
And you're just like, that's not happening.
Well, we'll see. But it's definitely a widening rift between the Blazers' new owner and this group of city lawmakers that will be the deciders in whether or not Portland ends up putting up this $120 million that Mayor Keith Wilson has already promised.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I feel like if one of them is saying, hey, I'm not putting in money, and the other one's like, hey, you have to put in money. To me, the compromise would be like, all right, if we invest, that just means we're getting money back somehow. Like we're getting a cut of something. Did you hear any talk of possibly figuring out a way that we would be making money if we put in money? Because I know that was something that was being floated around.
I think one of the key things for listeners to understand, and this whole entire discussion and debate around the Moda Center has been pretty muddled for many reasons, but like actual negotiations, right? This is ultimately going to come down to a negotiation between the team and local governments, primarily the city of Portland, and they haven't even started the formal negotiations for what a final negotiated long-term lease for the team would look like. And that's when all of these other factors are going to come into play. What kind of jobs will Moda Center workers have? Will they be union jobs or family wage jobs? Is the city going to get more of a take of the revenue that's pouring into this highly modern arena that hosts not just basketball games, but also, major concerts and other events? What's the pricing for food going to be? Like city councilors, a number of them are saying explicitly, like paying $18 for a beer at the Moda Center is BS because most Portlanders can't afford that. Yeah. So you're actually going to have to lower the price of concessions, which, but these are all of the types of things that are going to be discussed between the two parties. And that hasn't even happened yet. And the Portland City Council hasn't even come up or finalized a preliminary set of terms. That was what this work session was kind of about. And they're supposed to be getting sort of a preliminary proposal of terms to the Blazers by this Monday. I'll be curious to see how that goes, to say the least.
From your vantage point, Sophie, though, how is the business community reacting? Were they like, this is going great? Or were they just like, we're fucked?
It's really hard to say, but press for the most part was at the very back of kind of this tiered seating. And so I was just looking at everyone's heads. And, I think Andrew Hone, the Portland Metro Chamber, like he was kind of trying to crack some jokes. And, he was really, I think, trying to like make this into like just a conversational thing. And unfortunately, Dundon was his second in that. Yeah. And that wasn't working really well. But I was told by one source who kind of knows kind of the inner workings of the Blazers quite well. And they were saying this didn't go well. His appearance did not bear the fruit that we would have wanted it to.
Yeah. So, who would have known a billionaire not charming?
It's not just that. I think, I would say that for Tom Dundon, he doesn't have to be charming. The thing that he has said is what he has said from the very beginning, which is like, I bought the team. I would like to keep it here, but I don't have to by any stretch of the imagination. Mm-hmm. And he doesn't have to play nice if that's sort of his starting position.
Well, I was just going to say, like, I think I know we're talking about like, a huge amount of money and like high stakes things, but I think personality really does matter. Like, I think if he just came off as a more likable, sort of relatable guy, like I do think, unfortunately, that probably shouldn't be what either breaks or makes this deal at all. But I think it could help just a little bit if he was a little more conversational and he was maybe a little self-deprecating or just self-reflective or had slightly more thoughtful answers. I think the first question that Andrew Hone asked, it was like, why'd you buy this team? Why'd you bring this team to Portland? And like, he had such an opportunity to just say, this is an awesome city. I'm so excited to grow here and learn more about it. And it was just nothing. I mean, it was so void of just anything nice about Portland or anything specific to Portland. And it just felt almost like cold and so deeply like neutral to the point of like not even knowing he was in Portland. Like it just, he had an opportunity. And I feel like the Metro Chamber kept trying to kind of give him a layup to say nice things about Portland, show yourself to be a little bit more relatable, show that you understand that this is a high stakes thing for the Portland City Council. Like give the City Council a bit of a bone by saying, yes, this is a really important decision for your city. You should be taking time, just something. And it just fell so, every opportunity he was given, like he just like batted it down. He was like, nope, nope.
Say anything, please.
Anything. Just anything. Just say the word Portland.
I know. They're like, computer, make human man. And they could not. All right. Well, let's take a quick break here. And when we come back, Shane is sharing some findings into the hows and whys. Our city has gotten more expensive for the average Portlander. Shane, you and a colleague looked into the rising costs of being a Portlander. You got some data for us. What's going on? I mean, I have some guesses. I have some guesses as to why it's so expensive. I don't think it's the $18 beers at the Moda Center, I'll tell you that much.
That might factor into it just a little bit. And it also depends on how many of those $18 beers you're going to buy during a basketball game or during a Bruce Springsteen concert. You know what I mean? But anyway, so my colleague Amy Green and I recently wanted to dive a little bit more into, the issue of affordability in Portland, sort of starting with the larger, premise and understanding that a lot of us know that the rising cost of daily life, whether that's in Oregon or nationwide, is a growing concern for people because of inflation, tariffs, wars with Iran, and a host of other factors that are driving up the price of groceries, gas, retail goods, you name it. And then in Portland specifically, there is sort of the added financial burden right now that there has been a spate of recent tax and fee increases that have all kind of just converged around the same time or within a real short period of time. So, Amy and I looked at the fact that, within recent months, the Portland City Council has enacted this new street fee to try to, fix our really decrepit roads and transportation infrastructure. The arts tax was raised for the first time since 2012. Once again, Portland ratepayers got hit with a pretty significant water and sewer increase. Garbage collection rates are going up. And this is also on top of the fact that Portland voters, when asked by city leaders last fall, chose to raise their property tax levy for parks by 75% just to maintain the existing level of services. So we took those all together and add that up, and the average Portland household, just for those taxes and fees alone, will be looking at paying an additional $579 a year going forward. And on the one hand, that might not sound like a lot of money, but given the sort of overall feeling of being squeezed financially for all of these other reasons, it's really impacting Portlanders, their perception of the city, and sort of magnifying a feeling that has been pre-existing for quite some time, that this is a costly city, that city leaders are asking for taxpayers and ratepayers to give a little more over and over again, and they're not seeing, significant return on that investment. And then at the end of the day, too, $579 is a lot for a lot of households, for a lot of families. And, Amy and I spent time speaking with actual Portlanders, about this. And in the story that we're talking about here, we captured some of those voices, not all of them, because we spoke with a lot of people, but it was staggering and maybe even a bit surprising that every single person that we talked to, said that they were feeling that added financial squeeze. And it was also surprising somewhat that an average everyday Portlander had a great deal of fluency around these recent policies and these increases and what it was going to be costing their household. So that was another sort of surprising takeaway. I will just sort of wrap things up there, but encourage people to check out the story. And also, if folks have their own sort of experiences to share, we would love to hear from them as well.
I read your story and to me, it just seemed like the fact that you spoke to people. Yeah, I mean, this is just a collection of all the things we've been seeing. We know that our utilities have skyrocketed. We know that city council just approved even more taxes and levies. Everyone just seems so out of touch. And the thing is, whenever we talk to our city leaders or to these bureau leaders, they all seem a little out of touch, which is interesting because I'm like, but you get that, you're not the only person asking for money. This is top down. Everyone's asking for money. And at a certain point.
Well, it feels like such a rock and a hard place because it's like this never ending cycle of, the city's saying, well, if we don't, add more taxes and fees to Portlanders, like your parks are going to crumble and your police aren't going to show up on time, right? It's basically like, well, do you want to pay just a little bit more, or do you want your city to fall apart? And like, the thing is, when you do that 3 times a year, it's not just a little bit more, like those things really start to compound. And I'm curious, Shane, if like while you were reporting on this story, if you sort of came to a conclusion at all about like, okay, who's in the right? Like, is the city right to be, doing these fees and taxes? Or like, what happens 10 years down the road if we keep increasing these fees and taxes? Like, what does that look like? Do people leave? Do we push out, the people on the fringes?
I mean, those are all really great questions that don't have a quick and sort of easy answer. Part of what prompted Amy and I to do a little bit more digging on this, sort of bring it all together, look at what the tally is, and then talk to people about it is, our newsroom did our annual spring poll earlier this year, which had some pretty interesting findings in it, namely that the 2 concerns that were the most rapidly growing from year to year in the last 365 days, more and more Portlanders were concerned about affordability and taxes specifically. Like, that is a growing concern. It's captured in our statistically significant poll. And then there was this other just like wild stat out there that 40% of people in Portland were talking about considering leaving the city sometime in the next 5 years. And half of those people were saying because it was getting too expensive and that taxes were too much explicitly. It's a real political challenge, though. And there is some truth to the fact that part of the reason why there are this sort of sudden increase in all of these taxes and fees are because of decisions, good or bad, or the lack thereof, of a whole string of predecessors of former political leaders and their choices that this current city council is having to sort of deal with and reckon with. At the same time, the political challenge here, I think for a lot of them is on the one hand, you listen to them talk about like, our constituents are so concerned about affordability. I'm hearing this especially from like the East Portland City Council members, right? They're saying that over and over and over again in a dozen different ways, and yet each time they are finding themselves supporting these very increases. Like, I don't envy that position. And I don't know if, what the alternative could be. To Sophie's point, like if you don't address these issues now, they're probably going to be worse later down the line. But at some point, too, I think there needs to be a more public discussion and a little bit more scrutiny and oversight and consideration, probably from our elected leaders, about the overall efficacy of city programs and services. Because that's the other way in which you can start to sort of figure out this funding dilemma. But Sophie, I don't know if you have some other thoughts on that as well.
No, I think you're right. It's like such a deeply unenviable position that these counselors are in. And like, sometimes I wish that these counselors really didn't worry about reelection and really did. And maybe they are really doing what they think is best for Portlanders, but it's.
I mean, I would hope so.
I would hope so too. But sometimes I worry that like a lot of them are, all of them are seeking reelection actually that are up. And I just wonder like how that would inform or, how that would change their decisions if they weren't, like seeking approval, I guess. I don't know. I think all of us probably feel the increased fees and taxes in certain ways. It's like, if you take just one of them, it seems like, okay, 12 extra bucks a month, whatever. But then you get 3 more and it's like, oh my God, we're up to $75, and it's hard. And I can't imagine like how acute that would feel if you were making minimum wage and you had 3 kids. Like or
you're retired.
I feel it and I'm alone.
Yeah, exactly.
People who are on a fixed income, that's a huge factor too, for sure.
And I'll be honest, I'm tired of the lip service. This is just me as a constituent of hearing all of our city councilors, our progressive city councilors being like, yeah, affordability, and then nothing. And then just being like, but arts tax though, like super important. It's like, is it? Is it in the grand scheme of things?
We remain stone-faced.
I know. Sophie and Shane, just so you guys know, had zero, just poker faces. They have no emotions or feelings about any of this. You guys, I appreciate you both being on. We're going to wrap it up with Shane, your favorite, which is the shout outs. Sophie, I think you're going to help me out here. Before we head out, most people know on Fridays, we have some shout outs for members of our Portland Neighbors program. One of the perks of being a paying member of CityCast Portland is the opportunity to shout out a local business or organization that you love. I'm actually drinking from a CityCast Portland Neighbor mug, which is some of the swag you get as a CityCast Portland Neighbor. It's pretty cool. You want to kick us off, Sophie?
Yes. I have one here from listener Jim S. that says, I wanted to shout out local author Willie Vlotten for his most recent work, The Left and the Lucky. Like most of his stuff, it's set in Portland. Claudia will love it. It's in St. John's, and Slims gets mentioned many times.
What?
And the characters are generally people having a hard time navigating their lives. But it's real, and it's really Portland. It sounds like Shane's story.
True. True
All
story.
True. Thank you, Jim S. I'm going to check that out. Slims. I wonder if Willie Vlotten has been, I'm assuming he's been to Slims. I wonder if I've seen him. Now I'm curious. I don't know what he looks like. Well, here's another one from Disco Paul. Disco Paul. Hollywood Theater and Movie Madness, Metropolis Cycles, and Portland Food Forest Initiative, Edible Landscaping, Permacultural Design, Regenerative Urban Farming. This was just a bunch of words that he likes, I guess. These were all, it's true, these are just shout outs to, I guess, things he likes. Well, shout out to Jim S. and Disco Paul. When you join as a Portland CityCast neighbor, we'd also be happy to read your shout outs of places you love in Portland, alongside a bunch of other perks like ad-free listening. You can join at membership.citycast.fm. I also just want to give another shout out. I know a few days ago we shared that we lost a much loved reporter in our city, Zane Sparling. I know that Sophie and Shane were also colleagues. He worked at the Oregonian with Shane. I know we all love him. We were together last night celebrating him, hanging out with his family, his father who looks exactly like him. And it was such a trip to see.
Uncanny.
To see, I was like, that's Zane. But the biggest bummer was that I think we all said it. He would have loved it. He would have loved all that attention. And so we cannot leave this episode without giving Zane his attention. So Zane, we love you. I wish we had the rights for the AC/DC song that he once said was his walk-on song during one of the opening questions that were like, what's your walk-on song for your job? And he said it was AC/DC, Back in Black. So please, if you're listening, put that song on for Zane.
Oh man, I could talk for hours about Zane. He was a really dear friend of mine, and he is just he's a one-of-one person. I don't know how else to say that. I found him so freaking funny. Everything he said and did made me giggle. And I think he's maybe one of 3 people in my entire life I've found who can just make me laugh with like pretty much everything he does. He was brilliant. I mean, he had a brain that worked differently, and he cracked me up. And also like underneath kind of all the sarcasm, and he was deeply sensitive and a really good friend. Like 2 years ago, I was like really bummed out on my birthday. I don't remember why. I didn't really know Zane at that point. And he got me, he had read a book, My Year of Rest and Relaxation. He and his partner Suzette had both read the book, and Zane had wrapped a copy in a Willamette Week paper and had, put a bow on it and gave it to me for my birthday. And he just said, we both read it and we really thought you'd like it. And it was the only wrapped present I got that year. Again, I don't care. But it was so thoughtful. And I don't know, when you had moments where you could really see Zane's tender side, it felt really, really special. Cause most of the time, he was just funny and doing bits and kind of the life of the party in a very specific way. And yeah, but once you got tender Zane, it was if you got access to something that was very special. So I will really miss that guy.
Well, thank you guys for hanging out with me. Just tell the people that you love them. That's all I'm going to say. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Claudia.
Thank you.
That's all for today here on CityCast Portland. Thank you for listening. Our production team this week was John Notariani, Julia Fiaioni, Rachel Monahan, Jesse Wiza, Laura Satsui, and myself. Original music by Jenny Conley and Stephen Drizos. Additional music by All the Kimonos. Our ad music is by Sven Lidval and Sarah the Instrumentalist from Epidemic Sound via Getty Images. We'll be back Monday morning with more from around the city. Until then, see you at Slim's.